Starting us off in at number 10, Thor. Thor is a superhero who is a literal Asgardian god. The son of Odin, he is noted in the comics as being the physically strongest Asgardian of them all. So how strong is that? Well, he can lift the almost Earth-sized Midgard serpent, he can support the weight of 20 planets, and when combining his efforts with Beta Ray Bill, he destroyed Surtur's solar-powered sized dimensional portal in Thor issue 340 from 1984. That's impressive. He can enter a state called Warrior Madness, which is a berserk mode of sorts that temporarily increases his strength and stamina, although it can make him susceptible to attacking both foe and friend. Thor's invulnerability is impressive as well. He withstood attacks from Celestials in the past. In addition to that, he's got incredibly powerful senses, able to hear cries from across a planet, track objects traveling faster than the speed of light, and he can regenerate wounded parts of his body, often with the help of magic though. Then there's the powers he gains from wielding Mjolnir, dimensional teleportation that allows him to travel between dimensions the likes of our own and Asgard's, electric manipulation, the ability to fly, and weather manipulation. Pretty nifty. Moving on to another character who really likes the weather, in at number 9, Storm. Well, one would assume she really likes the weather, because it's kind of her shtick. Storm is yet another character who has been hailed as a god in the past, and she actually has an ancestry with links to the divine. She has been known to be empowered from people's beliefs and prayers. The more people who believe in her, the more powerful she becomes. When she was first introduced in Giant Size X-Men issue 1, Storm was being praised in Kenya as an actual god, and her Earthlink ability gives her a psychic bond with the primal life force of the Earth's biosphere, which feeds her spiritual and material sustenance and instills her with a great amount of empathy towards every living being. This means she can sense things that others can't. She once sensed that the blackbird was breaking through the atmosphere when she was thousands of miles away. She can sense when natural phenomena are occurring, and she once sensed that a tree on the Xavier Mansion's property was dying. She lands higher up on this list in comparison to others thanks to her recently reconfirmed Omega level mutant status and her atmokinesis abilities. She has the ability to control and manipulate the environment, precipitation, humidity, and moisture at a molecular level. Up next in our number 8 spot we have Wonder Woman. Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, first appeared in All-Star Comics issue 8 in 1941. One of DC's holy trinity, she is an Amazonian demi-goddess with a massive list of abilities that would have any villain shaken in their boots. She has superhuman strength, speed, stamina, durability, endurance, agility, reflexes, dexterity, intelligence, senses, and longevity. She is nigh invulnerable. She has an accelerated healing factor, and Diana is a master of hand-to-hand combat and martial arts. She can fly, she can make use of magic, she is capable of electrokinesis, and perhaps the most obvious reason why she is on this list, she can manipulate divine energy and project it too. Let's not forget that Wonder Woman has an arsenal of tools at her disposal that makes her even more powerful, the likes of her lasso of truth, her indestructible bracelets, and more. Plus, she's also capable of taking on actual gods like Ares, and that speaks volumes. Up next, number 7, Adam Warlock. Warlock was created by a group of scientists called the Enclave. He was the perfect artificial human, who initially referred to himself as him. Simple. Rebelling against his creators, he left Earth and journeyed throughout space, becoming the cosmic hero we are familiar with today. So what can Warlock do? Well, he has superhuman speed, strength, agility, and durability. He can fly, he can manipulate and absorb energy. He is an expert in the field of magic, specifically quantum magic, which he can use to manipulate quantum energy and create force fields, teleport, travel faster than light, produce or detect wormholes, spot out other irregularities in space, and of course, Warlock can manipulate matter. Warlock is also capable of recuperating himself, often creating a cocoon for self-preservation and regeneration. He's immortal, although he can be killed. But he can't technically die because death cannot claim his soul. Moving on to number 6, we have Solar. Solar may be one of the lesser known characters on our list, but oh boy, is he powerful. First appearing in Dr. Solar Man of the Atom issue 1 in 1962, initially published by Gold Key Comics, now by Dynamite Entertainment, he is a fellow who was introduced as a physician named Dr. Philip Solar. He attempted to avert an imminent meltdown of a nuclear power plant upon his first appearance. So Solar absorbed a massive amount of radiation, gaining his powers that would allow him to convert his body into any kind of nuclear energy he desired. The second version of the character had a similar origin story, except now his powers were due to a new type of fusion reactor. Essentially, his body is a living nuclear battery, now being entirely made up of pure energy. He doesn't rely on human food anymore, doesn't have a human metabolism, nor does he have a heartbeat. An innate super genius, the accident turned him into a godlike being. He can manipulate on an atomic and subatomic level. He's invulnerable, he's immortal, and he can manipulate energy in all of its forms, and generate it. converting it into energy blasts and projectiles. Coming in number 5, Silver Surfer. The Silver Surfer is arguably one of the more overpowered superheroes in Marvel's roster. Initially the Herald of Galactus who endowed him with the power cosmic, Silver Surfer uses that power cosmic to pull off some pretty impressive moves. These abilities include superhuman strength and durability, flight, traveling at a speed that exceeds the speed of light, manipulating energy and matter, time traveling, telekinesis and telepathy via parsecs of distances. He's intangible, he can turn invisible, can create a star or a black hole, can create pocket universes, cast illusions, phase through things, and of course, he has cosmic senses. All in all, that's a pretty godly skill set to have. Moving on to number 4, we have the Sentry. The Sentry is Robert Reynolds, a man who one day woke up and remembered that he used to be a superhero. As absurd as that sounds, it was the beginning of a story of a hero who had been such a threat to the greater good that he himself had helped wipe the memory of his existence from the minds of everyone all over the globe, including himself. Sentry is like a majorly upgraded Marvel version of Superman. He is capable of molecular manipulation, which all of his powers are based within, which is the basis of all of his powers. It allows him to have complete invulnerability, flight, light and darkness manipulation, superhuman strength, speed, stamina, a regenerative healing factor, enhanced senses, matter manipulation, energy absorption and projection, immortality, reality warping, life creation, empathy and emotion manipulation, death touch, whatever that is, probably touch people and kill them, shapeshifting, mind control resistance, and more. The downside, and the reason why he was wiped from everyone's memories though, he has an evil alter ego within him called the Void, who proved to threaten all of existence with his malevolent ways. Up next at number 3, Molecule Man. Molecule Man, aka Owen Reese, is a Marvel character who first appeared in issue 20 of Fantastic Four in 1963, created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. He debuted as a villain, but eventually became a reformed hero. His allegiances weren't the only thing that changed over the years. His powers got a major upgrade too. Initially, he was capable of mentally manipulating molecules, which allowed him to create force fields, energy beams, and hyperspace portals. The upgrade? Well, Reese can now warp reality itself on a multiversal scale. It had been explained as Reese having mental blocks subconsciously imposed upon himself that held back these powers. He is a multiversal composite entity, a single creature that manifests fractions of its entire being in each universe found within the Marvel multiverse. Coming in at number 2, Franklin Richards. Franklin Richards, the son of Sue Storm and Reed Richards, first appeared in Marvel's Pages in Fantastic Four Annual Issue 6 in 1968. And he has a ridiculous amount of power. He can manipulate matter and energy. He can project energy. He has psionic abilities that include telekinesis, telepathy, astral projection, and precognition. He can teleport. He can create a pocket universe, one that can even replicate the entire 616 universe, which he did subconsciously, might I add. And he is immortal. Of course. He's a mutant who can warp reality, considered an Omega level mutant might I add, and even Celestials think his power is on par with themselves. The reason he doesn't rank in the number 1 spot on our list though is because his power limits are still undefined, and he is still very much honing said powers. He is quite young after all. And finally, in at number 1, Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen, aka Jonathan Osterman, or at least that's who he was prior, is a being with subatomic perception and control, with an unlimited manipulation of matter and his own body. He is nigh omnipotent. He is entirely invulnerable to all harm, capable of reconstructing his body even when disintegrated in a matter of seconds. He can create life. He is unable to be exhausted, and he is clairvoyant. In the Watchmen universe, not looking at the seemingly ceaseless Doomsday Clock storyline here might I add, Manhattan is the only character who possesses actual superpowers. Human beings in the story literally view him as a god. His perception of time allows him to see his past, present, and future simultaneously. And he is arguably, in the purest sense, the most godlike figure outside of a cosmic entity in modern day comics. Just look at him.
Number 10, Shazam. Technically, every time Billy Batson transforms using the word Shazam, he becomes 6 different gods all rolled into one. He gets his powers from these 6 gods: Solomon, Hercules, Atlas, Zeus, Achilles, and Mercury. I put quotations around the word gods because some are not really known as gods based on our own stories of them. Solomon was a king, and Achilles was a war hero. And it's a little weird that went with the Roman version of Hermes, Mercury, but stuck to the Greek god names for the other gods mentioned. Still, In the event of the Darkseid War, it is revealed to Billy that he is actually the god of gods, and that the death of Darkseid has severed his ties to the godly powers within him. So the wizard makes new gods to reside within Batson, where he will get his strength from. Number 9. Storm. Are you truly a god without people to believe in you? When Aurora Moreau returned to her homeland of Kenya, she found herself worshipped for her mutant abilities, believed by local tribes to be a goddess. This not only made her a god in the eyes of others, but she would go on throughout her time with the X-Men to truly prove that she was deserving of the god title. When going up against Dr. Doom in Uncanny X-Men issue 147, she proves just how strong she is when Dr. Doom tortures her by encasing her entire body in chrome, preying on her claustrophobia. This unleashes a power from within Aurora, which her fellow X-Men liken to that of the Phoenix Force in terms of her power levels and her reach. I believe she actually puts the entire world under like a storm, so pretty OP. Number 8. Batman. During the events of the Darkseid War, it seemed like all the supers were getting extra powered, Batman not excluded. He ended up finding himself in possession of Metron's prized Morbius chair. The Morbius chair grants him omniscient knowledge and turns Batman into the god of knowledge. He uses his powers to uncover Joker's secret identity and put a stop to crime before it has even happened, much to Commissioner Gordon's displeasure, as the justice system of Gotham isn't really made to prosecute criminals who have yet to commit a crime. Like, you can't do that. It's just like you have no evidence other than Batman being like, yeah, no, I saw it, it's gonna happen. Number 7. Cyclops. When it was made known that the Phoenix Force was on its way back to Earth, it created a divide between the Avengers and the X-Men. The X-Men believed that the Phoenix Force could be used to fix the world after the events of M-Day. The Avengers believed that the Phoenix Force would only destroy the world. The Phoenix Force was split into 5 by Iron Man and became the Phoenix 5, possessing Namor, Emma Frost, Scott Summers, Magic, and Colossus. Eventually, the power was rejoined as different members of the 5 fell off, losing their power and having it reabsorbed into the others until just Scott was left. Up until the last bit of power entered him, he was actually able to stay on the light side of things, but the full power of the Phoenix Force eventually turned him dark and caused him to kill Professor X. But for a while there, he was quite godlike and quite good. Pretty impressive. Number 6. Superman. Not only Batman got to have fun during the Darkseid War event, no. The more expected hero also got a taste of what it's like to play God. And finally too, I mean, Superman has always been one of those heroes who fans liken to a god, even just at his normal power level. During the Darkseid War, Superman found himself changed while on Apokolips. He was granted an immense amount of strength and became known as the God of Strength. A very different and brutal version of Superman who left Lex Luthor for dead on the planet, threatening that if Lex ever returned to Earth that he would finish the job. And he smashed all his armor. So rude. Lex kinda deserves it. Number 5. Jean Grey. You probably all know where I'm going with this one. We're talking about when Jean gets the Phoenix Force. Becoming the Phoenix and later Dark Phoenix grants Jean access to all kinds of crazy power. Remember when she ate a star and blew up a planet, inciting a war with the Shi'ar on her merry way? Now, the interesting thing is, while there are many others who have found themselves possessed by the Phoenix Force, Jean is special, which also proves just how powerful it makes her. While many characters have died and been resurrected in the comics, Jean even stands out in that regard. Some believe this is due to her connection to the Phoenix Force, which sees Jean as its one true avatar. The Phoenix Force demonstrates its power in every way in which it can save her. It is even willing and capable of punching a hole through space-time to save Jean through displacing her if it has to. Just move her over there for now. Come back to her later. Number 4. The Flash. That's right, we're going back to the Darkseid War. Darkseid was killed by the Flash during this event, who had merged with the Black Racer. As a result, the Flash finds himself feuding with the Black Racer, whom he has possessed, becoming the new God of Death, involuntarily. He tries to defeat Death in his own comic, exploring this transformation. Darkseid War Flash. Here we see him try to actually outrun Death and defeat him by killing the Black Racer, with his own scythe no less. But ultimately, Barry Allen realizes that you cannot fight the inevitable and accepts Death, giving in and merging with the Black Racer and becoming the new God of Death. Number 3. Scarlet Witch. Wanda Maximoff has always kind of had the capacity to act as a god, as her chaos magic abilities allow her to alter and warp reality any way she sees fit. But we didn't really get to see her play god until the events of House of M, where she altered all of reality to make an almost perfect world in terms of hers and others' liking. After her illusion was shattered and her brother was killed, Wanda suffered a psychotic break, which sent her into full-on god mode, and caused her to go one step farther than the previous delusional fantasy world she had previously created. She removed 99% of mutant population's powers with the words "no more mutants." Later on, she would use her power once more to defeat the Phoenix Force. Although Scarlet Witch doesn't often flex these powers, when she does decide to go god mode, she is a force to be reckoned with. She may not be as godlike in the MCU, but she did manage to hold off Thanos, who is basically a god, with a single hand. So that's something. Maybe one day MCU Scarlet Witch will also be a god. Who knows? Number 2. Hal Jordan. Hal Jordan had become possessed by the fear-feeding parasite Parallax, which caused him to become evil and power-hungry after the destruction of his home, Coast City. He killed a bunch of Green Lanterns during the pursuit of power, venturing to the home base of the Green Lantern Corps and absorbing their power battery. Hal went by the name Parallax and believed all the death would be worth it, as he planned to use his now omnipotent powers to fix the universe. Other superheroes banded together to stop him in the events of Zero Hour, but failed. However, Hal would later attempt to atone for the damage and death he had wrought by sacrificing himself to power Earth's dying sun. He would eventually become a normal human again, but not before he spent some time as the equally omnipotent cosmic hero, the Spectre, where he also had god powers. It's pretty godlike though, the Spectre. Number 1. Mr. Fantastic. As the incursion came to a boiling point, without seeing any way of avoiding the inevitable, Reed Richards gathered together as many heroes as he could and deployed life rafts with them inside, to protect them from the ultimate destruction of both universes as they collided. During the collision, it fell to Dr. Doom to try and save both universes. He became a God Emperor Doom, taking on the power of the Beyonders and creating a patchwork world built from the remnants of both Earth 616 and Earth 1610, called Battleworld. The life rafts from both worlds were discovered by Doctor Strange, who was Doom's second in command, and both versions of Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic of Earth 616 and the Maker of Earth 1610, decided to come together to put a stop to Dr. Doom, believing he was not a good choice for a god. After a fair fight against Dr. Doom and his power level reduced to even the odds, it was decided that Richards was the better choice when it came to someone rebuilding the universe. He was given Molecule Man's power, who had been powering Doom previously, and created the Marvelverse that we know today, even showing kindness to Victor Von Doom by fixing his scars and altering his memories so that he believed his nemesis Richards was actually dead. Aw, so nice. But he gets rescarred later, so poor Victor. Number 10. Black Widow. Alright, so granted this is from a what if, so in terms of the main continuity it doesn't really count, but after her apparent death in the MCU, you know I gotta throw my girl Natasha a bone. And besides, I'm always talking about her awful ultimate version on our list lately, so it's redemption time for Natasha. In What If Age of Ultron issue 3, Black Widow became a god after Thor fell. Many supers and dear friends had also fallen at this point, and so it was up to Natasha to try and wield the Hammer of Thor. She had to battle her way to Mjolnir, but ended up successful in retrieving it, managing even to be deemed worthy enough to lift it, and transforming her into her own version of the Thunder God. She ended up defeating the great Midgard serpent Jormungand, and while others fell in the battle, we later found out that this version of Natasha from Earth 23223 actually managed to survive despite being thought dead at the end of the comic. Also, this is a cosplay that I need to do, so adding it to my list. Number 9. Captain America. In the events that led to Secret Wars, Black Panther realized another Earth in the sky, which apparently was destroyed. It was later discovered that this was a result of incursions created by a being known as the Great Destroyer, who was causing alternate Earths to collide. In an attempt to save both Earths, the main continuity Earth of 616 and Earth 1610, from colliding with one another, the Illuminati decided to give Captain America the Infinity Gauntlet. Cap, being the kind-hearted soul he is, did not let this power go to his head and could not bring himself to destroy the other Earth. Instead, he used the gauntlet to push the two Earths as far away from one another as he could muster. Unfortunately, this caused the Infinity Stones to shatter, taking Cap back from God mode to plain old super soldier mode in a matter of minutes. Also, it didn't work, so. Number 8. Jane Foster. While Jane Foster was often more resigned originally to being simply a love interest of Thor's, her character has grown immeasurably in the comics. After answering the call of Thor's hammer, she became both a superhero and god instantly. Wielding Thor's hammer seemed to grant her all of Thor's powers and abilities. To me, this kind of felt like a throwback to the days where the hammer seemed to be the source almost of Thor's power, back when he had his alter ego Donald Blake, who now is actually his own being separate from Thor. Figure that. But becoming the goddess of thunder was not actually the only time that Jane became godlike. Odin also once tested her by turning her into an Asgardian and giving her powers, though he quickly took this away from her after declaring she had failed the test due to the fact that she was confused as to, why she had powers and what's going on Asgard. Odin can be such a jerk. And then there was that time that Thor's other love, Sif, merged with Jane to save her life when she was deathly ill. So, she's been a god a few times. Number 7. Wolverine. Wolverine is actually one of the best people to give godlike powers to. I know, surprising. Because he is often quick to use them and then just lose them. When he found himself possessed by the Phoenix Force during a team up with Spidey, where they were both stuck being tossed about through time, he ended up actually being able to eventually kick the entity out of him. And then there is the time in Uncanny X-Men Annual Issue 11, where he accidentally bled onto the psychedelic crystal of ultimate vision as he was dying. This crystal gave him the power to be resurrected from just a single drop of blood that had touched it, and allowed him to single-handedly defeat the villain Horde, transforming him into a god. But Wolverine, being Wolverine, could not be seduced by the power and decided to give it up by shattering the crystal, even if it meant that he might be destroyed in the process. Luckily, he wasn't destroyed. Neither were any of the X-Men that he was like, they might be destroyed, but worth it. Number 6. Spider-Man. I know you guys have all been waiting for this one, because of our last thumbnail on the previous video. During the run of the original Spider-Man series, Amazing Spider-Man, Peter found himself endowed with the power of Captain Universe. Although he would end up losing the godlike powers granted to him by the Enigma Force, there is another version of Peter on Earth 13 who decided to hold on to these powers, and yet another alternate who received the powers of Captain Universe on Earth 91110. On Earth 13, this God mode alternate met his end after facing off with Solus of the Inheritors. Despite being a god, his powers were attached to the life force, which energy vampires like the Inheritors feed off of. Solus, being as powerful as he was, managed to have a hearty enough appetite and be strong enough to devour the Enigma Force, killing Earth 13's Peter Parker. Sad. No more Cosmic Spider-Man. Bye! Number 5. Spawn. Spawn discovers that Armageddon is nigh, and that his ex-wife's children, Katie and Jake, are actually Satan and God respectively, incarnate. There is a being known to be even above them though, their mother, who actually gifted Satan and God with the earth to arrange as they saw fit. Basically, Satan and God are kind of just like cosmic children. However, their mother was disappointed and decided to put them inside the bodies of humans so they would hopefully learn something and just get along for once. This however failed, and they continued to wage war on one another. Spawn discovers that he may be the only one who can stop them, and sets out to prove himself worthy and eat some of the forbidden fruit, which will give him the strength that he needs. Presumably. He falls in battle after facing Judas, and the mother reveals that he has succeeded in the test and was meant to die in order to be resurrected, a la Jesus. Because apparently she was Jesus. At one point. Anyways. She gives him the fruit, which grants him the powers of the mother, turning him into a god. He ends up using the power to defeat both Satan and God, and recreate the earth. Kind of ultimate god mode. Number 4. Superman Prime. Superman Prime comes to us from the DC 1 Million series. This version of Kal-El ends up leaving Earth around the 21st century after everyone he loved has died. You'd think being an immortal being he would have just tried, make some new friends as his old ones were dying. But I guess he decided to not do that and just be a really lonely guy. He ends up leaving Earth to have fun space adventures where he is rumored to have traveled beyond time and space. How does one even do that? How do you travel beyond time and space? Does that make sense? I don't know. Only Kal-El could manage it after about 680 centuries away. That's right, he was gone for 680 centuries. It's a long amount of time. He returns and kind of makes a power cult with his descendants, bestowing them with powers he gained in his travels, so long as they promise to use them for good. Then he returns to his Fortress of Solitude inside the sun, popping back out to help deal with Solaris, an evil artificial sun who Green Lantern began to destroy by causing it to begin to supernova. Superman Prime steps in and simply just squashes the threat of Solaris. He also would later use his power and some DNA, which he retrieved from inside Solaris, to resurrect Lois Lane, who then became Silver. Silver and gold, silver and gold. Number 3. Adam Warlock. When the MCU turned to the comic book arc of the Infinity Gauntlet, we all thought for sure we'd be getting Adam Warlock, right? Whose existence in the MCU was teased at during one of the post-credit scenes for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Why? Well, because Adam Warlock understands these stones on a whole other level, and he was actually the one to wield the glove in the original story and put an end to the chaos, not Iron Man. Sorry Stark fans, sorry about that. Beyond that, in an alternate reality, Warlock also became the new Living Tribunal, transforming him into a god that stands for justice on a universal scale. Basically, if you're a cosmic superhero, you're definitely gonna have some godlike abilities at some point. Number 2. Franklin Richards. Franklin Richards is probably one of the strongest mutants on the planet. He is the son of Sue Storm and Reed Richards, and I feel like constantly steals the limelight from his sister Valeria when it comes to how OP he is considered within the comics. Well, I'm sure he didn't instantly have powers when he was born, as most mutants do not actually seem to gain their powers until they hit puberty. He definitely was an early developer. This is a child who had to have his mind shut down as a baby by his dad, Mr. Fantastic, as apparently Franklin was revealed to be already too strong and dangerous when he was kidnapped and put in a device that would, granted, unlock the full potential of his psionic abilities. So, okay, maybe sure, but still, he was a baby, a baby. Franklin as a young boy also created a pocket universe after Onslaught killed his parents, which he kept inside a blue rubber ball, effectively saving his mom and dad and everyone else Onslaught had killed. Oh, and he and Galactus also ended up becoming BFFs. Godlike beings gotta stick together, right? Know you're like a god if you're friends with Galactus, that's what I think. Number 1. Dr. Manhattan. John was sort of already granted godlike abilities as soon as he became the victim of an accident involving a radioactive particle test. It would take him a while, of course, to reform and come to this conclusion. But although this story is therefore more about John Osterman becoming a god, Dr. Manhattan really wasn't fully aware of how godlike his mind was becoming initially. As time progressed, he experienced a detachment to life that he eventually realized kept him separate and allowed him to see himself as being above humanity. The way he was able to view time and the value he put on human life eventually made him not only godlike in ability, but also in his viewpoint. Though he did end up rediscovering the miracle of life when he allowed the Silk Spectre, his former partner Lori, to view the world as he did, and they both discovered that the comedian was actually her father. He was like, wow, that's so amazing. Actually, human life's pretty cool. It's like a miracle. How did your mom and the comedian hook up? That's terrible.
Number 10. Thor. Thor at number 10, you say? Blasphemy. Well, no, not really. Everybody, or most everyone, knows about Thor, the god of thunder, or the herald of thunder in Donny Cates's run at least at the start of it. Thor is modeled off of the Norse god of the same name. He was cast out of Asgard, one of the 9 realms, after his father found him to be too arrogant and a disappointment as an heir. Initially, he was sharing the body of a mortal man named Donald Blake, and Donald Blake was not aware of this. Not only was that horrifying, but it was also confusing, so it was soon retconned to the fact that he was Donald Blake, unless he held the hammer of Thor, and then when he put it down, he forgot, which was still kind of convoluted, but it worked. Nowadays, Thor's secret identity days are long behind him, and now he is all Thor all the time. His status as a god doesn't actually seem to awe the people around him as much as it should. I guess they just got used to it, with him being an Avenger and all. He's just everywhere. They've been there and seen that. Number 9. Hercules. Hercules is a fairly prominent member of the Marvel Universe as well, but he doesn't get the same amount of attention. Definitely not on the same level as Thor. Hercules debuted back in the Silver Age of Marvel, or their Renaissance, because it wasn't even Marvel before the Silver Age. It was timely, before that was Atlas. Hercules got his start teaming up with Thor as his rival and eventually as his friend, but also still as his rival, like an anime. For some reason, the Grecian angle didn't really take as well as the Norse one. And while Hercules has his fans, he's certainly not as well known as some of the other characters out there. Although the importance of Simonson's run on Thor and how that defined him cannot be understated here. If you get a writer like, say, how Chris Claremont revolutionized the X-Men, you can suddenly get a whole new placement within the comic book universe. Number 8. Wonder Girl.
Cassandra Sandsmark. Yes, if you're a demigod, you get to be on this list too. While Marvel's Hercules enjoys full godhood status, Zeus over in the DC universe is still doing what he loves, seducing mortal ladies, though hopefully he's not doing it in the form of a swan anymore. Creepy. Cassandra is the daughter of Zeus and an archaeologist named Dr. Helena Sandsmark, who is also a friend of Diana, aka Wonder Woman. So at first they play it off like Diana is giving Cassie items that grant her powers and is taking her under her wing, before it is later revealed that no, she is actually a daughter of Zeus. At least this was before the New 52, then she was Zeus's granddaughter. Why? Cause why not? Retcon all the things. But hey, in Rebirth, Zeus refers to her as the future of the pantheon of the gods, so that's something. High praise, or high pressure. You decide. Number 7, Storm. Now Storm is interesting on this list for the fact that she isn't actually a god, but her people thought she was. When her amazing mutant abilities manifested, that being the ability to control the weather, it appeared to the people of her village that she was a goddess. She could stop droughts, create plenty, and turn the tides in their favor. It's an understandable assumption, to be honest. Still, Xavier came and burst that bubble hard, and then took her away to harness her powers to a greater degree, and also in a more targeted manner. Though she was doing pretty well figuring it out on her own, to be honest. Practice makes perfect, and compared to an average mere mortal, her powers do seem pretty godlike. Number 6, Snowbird. Snowbird first appeared in Uncanny X-Men number 120 back in 1979, and was actually a fan character for writer John Byrne, her creator. He was just waiting for a chance, essentially, an opportunity to write her, and with Alpha Flight, he got it. Snowbird is again a demigod, this time with a human father and a goddess mother, Nelvina, an Inuit goddess of the north. This wasn't exactly a romance though. Like, her father's experiences in the spirit realm drove him insane. It was much more of a you produce offspring now. Narya was bound by a shaman to the earth realm, where he attempted to raise her and give her some semblance of normalcy. But she grew rapidly and soon developed powers. Lots and lots of powers, such as being able to transform into any animal, well, any natively Canadian animal, so you know, caveats. She would end up on the Canadian superhero team Alpha Flight, but it was a pretty big conflict since she had been born to battle the forces of the tundra, so she had to kind of divide her attentions and eventually gave up her secret identity. Snowbird has many abilities aside from metamorphosis, and that includes healing. Again, people here know her origins, but they're pretty mad about it. She was born in the spirit realm. That's worth at least a conversation over coffee. Number 5, Orion. Orion is a member of Jack Kirby's New Gods universe. He is the son of Darkseid, traded with the High Father as a bid for peace between Apocalypse and New Genesis. Orion grew up in the paradise that was New Genesis, and was taught to focus his inherent anger, and he came to really appreciate the upbringing he had been given. However, his ancestry led him towards being their planet's most skilled warrior. He was aggressive and more ready for a fight than the other residents of New Genesis. Orion has been a member of the Justice League and helped them deal with Darkseid, his father. The new gods get their godhood more from their names than anything else. They are slightly more powerful than most mortal humans, but they are also still below some of the Earth's forces. Darkseid is pretty terrifying though, and just the application of the Judeo-Christian Darkseid is when referring to him, that's some hardcore blasphemy right there. Number 4, Mr. Miracle. So since we're talking about this trade, let's look at the other half. While Orion got to live an idyllic childhood on New Genesis, the child the High Father gave to Darkseid, not so much. No, instead he gave that child to the cruel Granny Goodness, in an attempt to break his spirit and to prove to the High Father that his way was best and inescapable. In a joke to amuse herself, the child was named Scot-Free, and would spend his childhood trying to escape Apocalypse, using increasingly cleverer and cleverer methods. Scott was unaware of his heritage, and yet still had an inherent bend towards freedom that led him to join the resistance against Darkseid, because he did eventually escape. Take that. Scot-free. He would end up on Earth eventually and love it there, especially the stable pace of life and lack of surprise torture at every corner. Number 3, Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange is usually the Sorcerer Supreme, but sometimes to shake up the status quo, that changes. And what we have instead is a powerless Stephen Strange, but he rarely stays that way for long. Case in point, when Loki became the Sorcerer Supreme. Doctor Strange cannot just let that stand, so he had to set out to find a way to be stronger, better, faster. So since Loki stole his cloak, Doctor Strange broke into Asgard and made a bargain with the World Tree. Yggdrasil. Hard to say. World Tree. The amount of magic that this Tree of Life granted him was so great, it turned him into a living god of magic. But since he really just wanted his life back, he was able to give up that godhood for his title, regular powers, and of course, his cloak. Number 2, Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan is transformed into the Watchmen universe's only superpowered being. This transformation is due to a tragic accident that results in his body being completely obliterated, disintegrated. But John Osterman came back. He came back changed though. He rebuilt himself molecule by molecule. He is no longer a man in the traditional sense, but a being of energy, a god. He exists now outside of time, or rather in all time periods simultaneously. Because of this, he began to get more and more disconnected from life and other people. He would eventually leave his universe to create one of his own. This would later be retconned to it being the DCU, or at least the New 52. There are many feelings about this. Mine are salty, but what are yours? I mean, I'm not as salty as the authors of the 3 Jokers who had to wait over an extra year to publish their comic because it had to wait till after this Watchmen DC crossover before it could come out, and there were art delays. Many art delays. Yikes. And in at number 1, we have God Doom. During the Secret Wars event of the 2010s, not of the 80s, the Marvel Universe essentially collapsed, and it was remade by one man, keeping it all together, a world of merges and warps. And in this universe, he also stole Reed's family. This man was Doom, or God Doom as he was known in this arc. Doom stole the Beyonder's power in order to save all creation, so he was being good at the time. This is why he gets to be on a superhero list. Doom does what he wants when he wants though. Doom was the god of this world, but ultimately he is still Doom. So Reed and his evil alternate the Maker managed to find a way to approach him and restore the universe. What this really was a way to wrap up the 1610 universe, aka the Ultimate Universe, which had at this point run its course. That universe started in 2000 and ended in 2015. Basically, they wanted to save the characters that they liked and shut down the rest, but in a way that if for some reason they needed to have them back in the future, they could. Basically, have your cake and eat it too. We want Miles Morales and the Maker, and that's pretty much it.